Okay, it's speaking of 7-Eleven. It is the magical hour.
There
Okay,
we go.
so we will get started and I will open up the evening and just welcome everybody. I think everybody maybe knows me. I know there might be somebody new. My name's Christine and Mel, if you want to give a little wave. That's Mel, and together we have Power in Aging, and it's our pleasure and our honor to get to serve wonderful women going through all stages of aging. And we have a fantastic community. We've been around for over 3 years now. I believe this is our 36th guest speaker event. So we've been just really rocking it with amazing, beautiful guest speakers coming in and giving us so much knowledge and wisdom and value into our community. We decided about a year and a half ago to expand into an online membership program, which we're really proud of. We put a lot of hard work, a lot of our heart into the program. And it is a 1 year membership. Every month is a brand new theme that you get to open up, discover lots of things about yourself based on that theme. We have videos every week, challenges, coaching questions, power lists, lots of different tips and tools as well. So it's something that we welcome you to come out and try if it's something that interests you and being a part of a supportive community of women with a group coaching theme. And we've expanded a little bit more as well. We have a couple of upcoming events we're offering now. Besides our guest speaker series, we're offering our spotlight series. Mel and I use a few very special products and services that have made our lives that much easier and healthier. And we thought it's about time that we start sharing them with the community and letting people know our secrets and our tricks of the trade. So we have our first guest speaker series coming up Saturday, November the 30th. It's going to be 11 a.m. at Eastern time, which I know it's early in BC, but our guest speaker is actually in England. So we have to coordinate our times there. Um, we also have our next guest speaker is going to be introducing Soul Tones, which is a vibrational healing journey that we're going to be offering as a course starting in January. It's a 1 month course that we're really excited to introduce. Mel and I did it back in the fall, and we're like, this is perfect for our community. Let's collaborate with the person who is running that. And so we're going to be doing that in January. So we do hope that you'll keep your eye out for our newsletters and join us at these free events. If you're not already a part of our mailing list, you probably are if you got the Zoom, but just in case, I'm going to put our link in the chat box and you're welcome to click on it. It does lead to a few of our other things, such as our podcasts that we have been interviewed on, which is a beautiful segue to our guest speaker. So I am so excited, so thrilled that we finally have the beautiful Allie Perry-Davies here with us. And Mel and I got to know her through Anita. We're very grateful for the connection. Allie is just an amazing person, inspirational. She is an author. She has a brand new children's book coming out as well. She's a podcaster, tons of podcast episodes. I suggest you start with the Power in Aging one, but then I think you should work through all of them. She also is a healer with many different modalities, including art therapy, sound therapy. Oh my goodness, I'm probably missing so many things you do. I remember you saying that you believe in new beginnings and hope. And I think that is the inspirational message right now for our group. So without further ado, I will pass you over to the beautiful Allie.
Oh, thank you. And Christine and Melanie, thank you so much for having me. And for everyone that came out on came to your computer on a chilly evening. I appreciate that you took the time to do that. And I think that and Anita for introducing us. So that was wonderful. I'm going to talk a bit about change tonight. And as I do, I have written and rewritten this several times and will probably completely discard it and just go on my own because that's sort of where I'm actually better at. Someone told me that I was an expert on change and reinvention. And I thought, well, that's an interesting term. What does that even mean that I'm an expert at that? And then I thought about it and I thought, well, I guess really what that means is I've had many opportunities to change everything and to reinvent myself. And I think that when I think of change, a lot of us, myself anyways, I get a little bit gripped with fear sometimes when I think about change, because when I think about change, I don't usually think of something fabulous and wonderful and new that's about to happen, although what a great way to think about change. I think I would usually think out of control, resistance, fear, challenging, shocking. What just happened? What's just going to shake my world? And so for me, I'm going to talk a little bit about both of those things tonight, about um, some changes that rocked my world in a not so great way, and part of learning to look at it a different way when things do come along that are out of my control, which is, pretty much everything. And so that's what I thought I would talk about. Some of the changes that I'm going to talk about started when I was really young, and I am going to just briefly mention a few. Trauma's kind of my gig, but healing from trauma is my gig. Seeking out trauma is not my gig. Believing everything is trauma is not my thing. Understanding and articulating and really sometimes renaming what we think trauma is, I'm all about that as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that happened in my early days that were traumatic. And I'm not going to stay in them very long. I find looking back on the past and past challenges are a little bit like quicksand. Once you get in them, it's a little bit hard to get out. And if were a kid growing up in the 60s like I was, and you watched any Tarzan shows, I really honestly thought that quicksand was going to be a way bigger deal in my adult life, but here we are, and it's not. But what I found is that how I think about things, how I think about trauma, how I think about my experiences, how I think about change, it can be like quicksand. I can get stuck in it, and don't wiggle so much or you're going to go down faster. I mean, everybody knows that, right? Anybody who's watched Tarzan knows, got to be careful about that. So that's part of my approach, I would say, in looking at it. So I will talk about a few things that did happen. So I experienced quite a bit of trauma in my young life. My parents divorced when I was really young. I came from a middle class family with, lots of family around and extended family. And in literally one day that all left. And then I was one of 5 kids growing up with a single mom, and all of our extended family was gone. I came from, okay, sorry, something that's changed on the picture. I was like, squirrel. I was a person at a young age that experienced quite a bit of sexual trauma and other ways. And so those types of things were things that impacted me and impacted how I saw the world around me. It impacted how I was able to change or not, how easy I saw those things, because at a young age, like many people probably here today, when we have those kinds of things happening, it makes the ground we're standing on seem rather unstable. And it's hard to catch your balance. If you think about it, if you think of hanging around with somebody and you're on solid ground, or somebody pushes you on a trampoline, it's very much like that. If we come from a place where there's been trauma, then the slightest little push or change or shift can just throw us off balance really easily. And that's sort of where the background that I came from. Then I went on, I was a teenage mom. I was married, divorced. Our daughter was quite young when she was diagnosed with cognitive challenges. Actually, in those days, they just said she's retarded. That's the language that was used back then. And that's okay. No one was doing anything mean. That's just a clinical term, so I get that. And then not too long after that, she was sexually abused by the husband of an in-home daycare person. Why am I talking about all this? Because it all impacted me and how I could see change and how I saw the world, and my ability to cope with those things or not was directly a result of the things that I had experienced before. So I went into a deep, well, I wouldn't even call it a depression, just an anxiety like nothing I'd felt, and curled in a ball and stayed there for quite some time. And then one day I thought, I can't stay here. I can't stay in this ball because my kids deserved a better chance. I tried everything that I could. If you any unhealthy way that you can think of to try to get yourself better, whether that was, dating people that weren't great for me, or drinking too much, or staying out, or spending money that I tried all those things to help me to maneuver and to navigate what was going on in my life, and none of them were working. So we started digging in and doing the hard work and getting a lot of counseling. And that was wonderful. And life changed for us. And I went back to school and started to study and learn how to work within a community of people and help other people. And I loved my life, and everything was going great. And the three of us were the Three Musketeers, and life was great. And then we met a wonderful guy, and he came into our life, and it was, things really changed for us in a beautiful way. So that was one of the things where change was awesome. Like, this is great. Look at this. This wasn't so good, and now it is. And it was always about the changing and the moving. Um, so let's fast forward, another 20 years or so, and now our kids are both adults, and we have grandkids, and life is good. I'm now working I went back to school again and was working as a disability case manager, and I loved my job. Oh, I loved my job so much. My husband's in the military. He was at a place in his career that he really loved it. Our kids were both out and on their own and doing well. We had 2 grandbabies. And life was beautiful, and everyone's waiting for the but. I know, all right? It's like, oh my goodness. So one day it was a beautiful, it was Valentine's Day. It was a beautiful sunny day on Valentine's Day, and we had our new German Shepherd, Sammy. She was in her little harness in the back seat of our truck, and we were going to look at a new house, and we were so excited. Like, everything was going so wonderfully. And we're driving along, and I found out later that what happened was a young woman and her friend were driving, and they had stopped at a fast food place along the way because they were late for work. And they were sharing French fries. Who shares French fries? But anyways, that's another story. That's where the problem started, thinking you could share French fries. It was on the console in between them. And the French fries fell into the back seat floor. And the driver, being young, turned around to pick them up from the backseat floor as she was speeding to get to work. We can all guess what happened. She when she turned around, it was too late. There we were. And that was a day that changed a lot of things for me, for us. I sustained a brain injury in that accident. And for the first, it took me about 2 or 3 years just trying to sort out talking again. I was slurring my words. I was in a brain injury program. Walking was hard. I fell and poked my eyeball. They thought I'd punctured it. I broke a thumb one time. Another time I broke a wrist. Another time I broke an ankle. It was because, a compromised brain is a challenging little thing to deal with. And so I went from the happiest of happies, having worked really hard to pull everything together in my life, to a place that was dark and hard. Now, at first, I'm going to say it was really mostly hard for David, my husband, because I was rather oblivious to it all. I was sad and crying and in a lot of pain, and we didn't feel well, but I was so confused that I didn't really fully understand the impact of what was just about to happen, like where life was about to happen for us. And so that's one of the things that I had to learn about, right? Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. But how was I going to respond to that was going to be what was going to make me sitting here today, where I am now, or what it felt like what I should do or what I wanted to do was curl in a ball. And I did that for a while, let me tell you. I curled in a ball. I couldn't, the buzzing in my head was really loud. It was constantly vibrating, shaking in my brain. It was like, if you do this, zzz, and you know how your tongue vibrates? My brain felt like that for the first about a year and a half. And it was a hard time. It was a really difficult time. Although most of that I only know because I had a diary. Someone told me to write down what was happening for me. And so I did those things. And there I was 55 years old. I can remember inside of me thinking, I don't know what to do, but I'd been a disability case manager. So somewhere deep, deep, deep inside of me, something just clicked. And I remember phoning and asking someone, will you take me to Opus? I didn't even know what Opus was. Well, I mean, I knew because I looked it up. I just knew I thought I should paint. I didn't know why I thought I should paint. I didn't really know exactly anything about that. I just had this feeling that if I could do something besides cry, that maybe, just maybe, I'd be okay again. I didn't really have hope for the buzzing to stop because it had gone on for quite a while. The walking, okay, I couldn't really go out without, like I had to have someone with me because I fell all the time. It was 4 years before I could drive again. But this one thing I thought about was going to be painting. So when I went and, you know, newly unemployed and spent $1,000 my first trip to Opus because a brain injury is not, you're not a really good budgeter either. Anyways, that was okay. I went and I bought every supply that I walked in and said, I just need to paint and I don't know what else to do. And they said, okay, well, we can help you with that. And they were awesome. And when I first started, literally I could do it for about 30 to 60 seconds. Like I couldn't, just holding the brush was hard. Standing was hard. Trying to put my arm around because my just balance was off and everything was off and I didn't really know what to do. What was I going to paint? I never painted before. So one morning I was looking out and it was the most glorious, glorious day. And I took a picture of a sunrise. And so when I looked at it, I thought, I'm going to paint that. And that was my first actual painting that I did was that sunrise. And I still have it and I love that painting. So I worked my way up from a half a minute to a minute to 2 minutes and then 3 and then 4 and then 5. And then after a while I was actually painting. I was painting whole paintings and I started to share them on Facebook and everyone was liking them. And I was like, oh, this is really wonderful. And it was a lot of fun. But here's the biggest thing that happened was for the moments I was painting, I was free. The thing that was the quicksand that I was talking about earlier, I wasn't struggling. It was like I had a friend and a plan. Someone handed me a stick or a vine or whatever it was that Tarzan would give to people. And I started to slowly, slowly crawl out of that quicksand. And it was a time when I just started to really look around and started to think, okay, so what am I going to do? What's my plan now? So I'd gotten myself up to be able to do that a little bit. I was still in the brain injury program. I was deciding on, I hired a brain injury support worker, a really good friend of mine actually, who worked that way already. So I said, well, like, no, I'll hire you and you'll just, so we started working together. I had an occupational therapist that came in and I had to, try to learn how to remember things. And we were joking about remembering earlier, but I'm talking more the memory of if you say 3 things to me and I don't know them in a minute, right? How that all works. And drawing pictures, that was the other thing that we were working on because I was trying to paint and it was like I couldn't make them work, but my brain wouldn't allow me to do a circle. It wouldn't connect. I couldn't connect the things. So it took a lot of work and a lot of training to do that. Um, and then it just started to open up a whole world for me. About 4 years into it, I could go for walks. I was getting outside again and I couldn't really read, but I could a little bit, but I started writing again because I was a musician before too, right? So that was my kind of sometimes full-time gig, sometimes part-time gig, usually part-time gig. In fact, the weekend before the accident, I had done this gig with a really great group of musicians and I'd met this guy and we were going into the studio on the next week to start recording. That's going to matter later. That's why I'm telling you that right now. hold on to that a little bit, not too tightly because I have other things to say, but it'll matter because everything comes back and everything comes back more beautifully. And I think that's the deal. So one of the things that I lost was my ability to do any music in the accident. Now, a lot of times with brain injury programs, they have music is part of how they heal. For me, the vibrations, I couldn't cope with vibrations. So I couldn't sing, I couldn't play, I couldn't listen to music. And if I thought about songs, it would start my brain going, vibrating again. And so I had to put all of that away for a while. But I started to write. Now, what's really funny is my occipital lobe was where I was mostly impacted. So what I know now about the occipital lobe, it controls my vision, a bit of what's going on. So when I would try to read, things were all going all over the place. So I could write, but I couldn't read it. And that's kind of how I started. I started writing again to try to just to get my feelings out, to do poetry and things like that. So I'm doing the little painting, a minute, 2 minutes. Now I'm up to about 15 minutes at a time. And I'll come back and I'll try to write down just my feelings because that's something that I always did. And one day someone contacted me and said, look, I know you're not doing music really, but there's somebody, I forget if it was Veterans Affairs or the Military Resource Center or something like that. I can't remember which it was, but somebody's looking for someone to write a song about military family life. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was this funniest thing because I went and my girlfriend, we were speaking earlier, my girlfriend's Hawaiian, and she brought me a ukulele and said, try to play the ukulele. I'd never played an ukulele before. She said, try this because it's very gentle and maybe you'll be able to cope with those sounds. And I was just very gently, I could do it. So now back to this song. So they had said, if anybody could write this song, they were going to have, this is sort of before I anyways knew about Zoom. It might've been around, but it was a different thing, but it was a concert that was going to be going around the world through all the bases and stuff like that, the Canadian bases and Military Family Resource Center. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll write a song. And it took me about 15 minutes and I wrote this song. And I was like, oh, so I played it and I thought, that's not half bad. So I recorded it on my phone and I sent it off. And they chose it. And so here's what happened with that one little thing, that little 15 minutes of my life, my girlfriend checking in on me and thought, I'll just tell you that, is that I thought, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. But I didn't think I would be able to. I hadn't really been able to do much about music. I didn't even really know that much what I was doing yet with ukulele. But I wrote this song. Now from that, there was interviews and there was things to do, and I was still not really talking all that great yet. I was a little bit like, and all of a sudden these people they're sharing my paintings all over and people are wanting to buy paintings. And I'm like, I don't think you people understand. I'm some brain injured chick. That's what I said to her. I'm just some brain injured chick in Victoria. So this is all just happening from my house. Actually, the room I'm in right now is the room where I recovered. It's the room where I painted. It's the room where I wrote. It's the room where I learned to play ukulele. Well, that's my guitars, but over there's my ukuleles. But it's the room where I did all those things. And so the thing was that they didn't see, they just saw what I had created and they loved it. And so what happened was that I started to believe I could do that again. And it just took that little, because now you see, now I'm back in this quicksand and I'm struggling and I found the stick, but now I've got a friend to pull me out. And that's the levels of change, and how it works as I see it is that we find ourselves in the quicksand. As quickly as we can remember not to struggle, it's gonna be much better for us. And then we're going to need to find a way out. We need a plan. And if we can have a friend, somebody, just one person, it just takes one person to believe with me. Just, if I can't believe in myself yet, if somebody else can believe, if I can believe in you for 5 minutes, the change in you is going to be exceptional. And that's the way that I see the world. Now, it was interesting because I'd always intuitively known these things, right? So as a kid, I always, had dreams and these visions, and I started to dream again, and I started to believe that things were going to happen for me. And I started to see these things start to unfold. And so I just kept following that path. Now, what happens next was a friend says, "Hey, you like writing? Um, Somebody's doing this thing, and it's everybody writes their own chapter. Do you what do you think about that?" I'm like, "Well, I can write it. I don't know if I can read it. That's going to be my problem." And that was a bit of a problem in the first book. Ask Anita. Um, but so I did that. I wrote a chapter in a book, and it was and basically I just blurted out everything about brain injuries, and I don't really remember actually what it was. Actually, I think it was something about aging. I don't know. But anyways, I was a chapter in a book. And then, so that went really well, and that went to bestseller, and we were all happy and clapping, and look at, well, this wasn't this fun. And then there was another one. And so I did that one too. Now this time, Anita and Julie, a few people got on board. Julie was the publisher, and she started talking to me. She said, "I think you need to get a website." And so I did. I got a website, and she said, "Just start telling people about what it's like to recover from a brain injury." And why all this matters is that I did not go from the day I couldn't speak to where I am now in one little step, and I didn't do any of it by myself. The changes came gradually. I never thought I was doing anything spectacular as I did it. I wasn't really thinking about that. I was literally, it was like I was trembling in the dark, and I just trusted that if I took one more step, there would be a stone there that I would be able to get onto. And then I got on that one, and I shivered for a while, and then I took another step. And that's how that went for me. So I took Julie's advice, and I got myself a website set up, and my husband and I were having fun with it. And basically I did a blog, and I threw a couple of pictures because I was into photography, and I threw some pictures up. I had one song that I liked that I had recorded. It was somebody else's, but I'd been asked to sing a song on a CD in the before. That's what I call the before my accident, the in the before. And so it was great. I'd worked with Joby Baker. He's a Juno Award-winning producer, a musician, and I was like, it was a thrill of my lifetime. So I put that stuff up, and I just started doing that. And all I talked about on my website, basically, and in my Facebook page was life with a brain injury. There was, look, I did this painting. I have a brain injury. Look, I wrote this poem. I have a brain injury. That's sort of where I was at the time. And so I started to do all of that. And then I was asked to be a co-author on another book. And I did that. And then I started taking courses, and I said, "Look, I can't really read very much, but I'm very interested in your course on holistic integrated creative art therapy. I would like to get a diploma in that. I mean, I have these other diplomas and things like that, but that one seems quite interesting, and I'm not using the other ones right now, and I'm not sure if I ever will be because I can't really read. But I would like to learn more about painting and how to heal with that, because I believe it's been a really big catalyst in my healing." And so I did that, and then COVID hit, and it felt like I might go backwards, but I didn't. I started to thrive, and I wrote another book. I wrote a whole book by myself this time, and it was all around trauma and art and healing, and how do we do this? And I have to tell you that it never at any time, at any step, did I think I would be a person that is now people come to get me to do things or to talk or to share about trauma and healing and art. None of that was I was very happy to do what I had done before or be curled in a ball. It wasn't until I started to unravel that ball that it started to really come alive for me. So I did that, and then I found something that was quite remarkable. And here's the part. We go through change, and we have these things that happen. And if you're like me, I forget all the things I knew before when I'm in the middle of I can be right in the middle of something and think, okay, my life has changed, and I'm not ever going to do this other thing again. And I can forget all these things I did before. It's like until all of a sudden I remember, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Yeah, I used to do that. Oh yeah, I used to be a musician. Oh, right. I used to do counseling. Oh, right. I used to do this thing. And so one of those aha moments happened while I was taking my courses it was around the sound therapy part. Because I'd been, when I was doing as a musician, and working in the disability community, I'd often gone into group homes and hospitals and facilities and done music therapy. But you see, I never even thought I did music therapy. I was like, no, well, I just go do music. I didn't really fully understand all these years of what I've been doing. It wasn't until I was taking this course and it came up about sound and vibrational therapy, and I started learning about vibrations and hertz levels and the healing that could happen, and I was like blown away. And then it started talking about colors and people who see colors, and I'm like, God, I never even told anybody that. I used to sing and I would see colors float over the audience, and I would change the octave or change something, and I would watch the colors shimmer through their bodies. And I was doing all these things for decades, but I never really talked about it because nobody had told me what it was. And so just in case I wasn't supposed to, I wasn't gonna tell. So that was my theory behind it all. So what was beautiful was here I was, I'm taking this course, just thinking I just wanted to know more about painting. And then this unfolds, and it started to explain to me everything that had ever happened to me. It started to make sense of, my life working, when I did things as an intuitive, as I did things with music, when I did things with healing energy, when I did all of this, it all came and just melted down into this beautiful little thing I could hold in my hand and say, oh my goodness, I've been doing this the whole time. I've been doing this all along and I didn't even know it. And I would never probably have known it had that little girl not dropped her French fries on the back. I'm not saying that we should do such things and I'm, I'm so grateful I was never mad at her about that. I would just want to say that. And I think that forgiveness and um, there's a gift that I was given that I was never mad, because I could have been. I get that. And it's not like I'm big and brave and wonderful and had to fight it. I just thought when it happened, I thought, I don't know. She's like, whatever, 20 years old. So what? Like, whatever. It's unfortunate, and I've done way worse, and I'm just glad I didn't hurt someone. So there was part of that was to it. So I started exploring that more, and then I went and I studied and once I got that diploma, and then I studied more and got an advanced certification in vibrational therapies and sound therapy, and I've just continued to follow on that path and to watch it grow and to watch people be healed and to be a part of that. And I think that for me, part of everything that I learned through that and my experience was that change happens. Often, not always, often it is a change I did not ask for. I didn't want it. I didn't know what to do with it when it came. It terrified me, made me angry, freaked me out. I resisted it. I curled in a ball. I cried. I did all those things. I did check, check, check. I went through my checklist. And when my checklist was done, I had to remember that I'm brave and I'm courageous and I can stand up and I can do this and I don't have to stay curled in this ball. It's okay to for a while. It's all right to cry and feel sorry for ourselves. That's all right. I mean, that's just part of being human sometimes, as long as it's only for a little while and I don't stay there. When I stay there is when I get myself into some deep trouble. So that's what I did. And I just began to look for other ways and other ways to bring healing. And all of a sudden, here I was, and I'm now taking this course, and before I know it, I get a little singing bowl, and then I get another one, and I'm like having fun with those, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And then I start to do things like with my little kit. My little kit fit in a little, the little grocery bags, like the little Thrifties bag or Sobeys or whatever. Put a little, and everything that I had when I first started fit in there. I had my chimes, I had tuning forks, I had three little brass bowls, And that's what I started with. And I started getting, I did it with a couple of people. And then I started getting invitations to go to hospitals and to go to different places. And so I started going. If somebody called me and asked me to go to a hospital, I showed up. I went and I played singing bowls, and I didn't really, someone said, "Oh, you're doing this or that." I don't know. Okay. I just know, I just follow I listen. I'm talking a lot right now, but I listen. I love to listen. I love to hear things. I love to listen for shifts. There's always shifts happening if only we're paying attention. There's a shift in someone's eye movement. There's a shift in how they speak. There's always these shifts that would happen. And so I started to do it, and I noticed that when I would scan people, when I would play the bowls and go over them, I started to notice different sounds and tones would come. I'd try that again. I'm like, oh my goodness, something's happening. So it was not in any of my courses. I'm going to have to develop a course and teach about this, because if you're playing a bowl over someone's body, if there's a blockage, an energy blockage there, it will change. The sound will change. It's really quite fascinating. And I would say, "Do you hear this?" And they'd say, "No, I don't hear it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna," and people would start to have remarkable things happen. And then I got just one day a week, I went in somebody's little spa and I started to do that and doing sound. And I had just amazing experiences. One time I was playing my but no, okay, by now I have crystal bowls and a gong, and I'm kind of, yeah, it's an addiction. So things are growing. I've got, so I'm set up in this little place, and this beautiful woman came in, older than me even, and I'm playing, I'm doing my scan that that's all I know way I know how to describe it, doing a body scan, and I all of a sudden I can hear a child crying, pleading, and I'm looking around, like literally I thought something was going on. And anyways, at the end of it all, this woman who actually is a doctor, said to me, "I've never had anything like I had so much healing in that." And I spent an hour and a half on her in this one place that when I went away from that area of her body, this crying stopped. And so it started to occur to me, this is actually her. This is her body. I don't know why I'm hearing it like a child screaming, but I am. It turned out that she had been in a horrible, horrible accident as a child and was in the hospital for over a year. And they needed to do things to rehab her. And she would be crying and begging them to stop. But they weren't being unkind. It was just, a long time ago when you didn't stop when someone told you how much it hurt. And she was a little girl. So anyway, she had this remarkable healing. But what happened for me was a change again. I started to remember. I started to remember intuition and listening and healing and all that was possible. And so then one more time I was, went from not being able to speak to I'm in the quicksand to somebody hands me a vine and now they're pulling me out. And now I'm standing there and I'm realizing I can go back and get the others that are still in the quicksand. And it's just this time of remembering who I was. Remembering what I was created for. And then I was remembering, being a child, and there was a few things that I wanted to be, a nurse or a doctor, of course, because my mom was an RN, a singer, of course, because I sang all the time. And I wanted to be a teacher. And I thought it was only because I was bossy with my brothers, but there was more to it than that. And so all of these things started to unfold, and it all started from a change that I didn't ask for, I didn't want, I was terrified of. It was really hard. Every step of it was difficult. I'm not super brave. I'm not all the, well, I am super brave, but I'm not more brave than others. I'm not more brave than anyone else here is capable of. I just am a person that this is what I faced. And I got to a place where I thought, okay, at 55, I'm 65 now. At 55 years old, I've got a couple of choices here. I'm either this is going to be it, and this will be my life, and however long I live it, I'm not going to do much with it. Or I'm going to get up, and when I fall, I'll go to the hospital and get a cast again, get up, fall, go to the hospital, get a cast again. There was a lot of that going on, but I'm just going to keep trying, and I'm just going to take a step, and then I'm going to take another step, and I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Nothing's going to make me stop. And it's kind of, I, I, I realized someone told me once, well, you've always been like that. I said, really? Because I've always kind of felt like I was a bit of a wimp. Like, honestly, right? If someone was says to me, oh, you're so brave, you're so courageous, I'd be thinking, really? Because I was terrified the whole time. I never felt brave and courageous. I was trembling. I was trembling from every step. I was trembling every time, right up until I wasn't. If I have an encouragement for anyone, it's this, is that if I've learned anything in life, is that things happen unexpectedly. Things that we don't want to happen. So welcome back. We just had a little brief interruption there, but we are back. And I wanted to finish up by saying that, you know, sometimes things are going to happen, and things are going to happen, and they're going to be unexpected. And for me, the important thing is to remember to first to center, to ground. I've just written this kids book. I'm super excited about it. It's this particular one is called Look Around and Ground, with Ginger and the Fun Bunch. And it is part of a collection of children's books that I'm doing. And that is the Don't Be Scared, Be Prepared collection. And that is all about teaching kids how to really to handle things, to empower them, to help them to understand themselves. If there's anything, if there's anything going on, just teaches grounding, it teaches positive thinking, it teaches all of that kind of stuff. And I think that in our own lives, it's an important thing. Why I wanted to write kids books about it was because when I was a kid, I didn't know those things. I was scared. I had reason to be scared. I had things that had happened. But it's important to just know that there's a way to just come around and you just focus and we ground and we go, okay, this thing just happened. It wasn't okay, but it's not going to change my life. It's not going to change what's happening here. It's not changing the intent of my heart. It's not changing the message. All those things are real and what really matters in the world. And so with change, I've learned that sometimes it's really hard. And sometimes if I can just remember that what's really important is that I want to be brave enough to fail, brave enough to succeed, just brave enough to take one step, then the next step, then the next step. And that's how I want to do it. I don't want to be ever again in a place where I'm paralyzed from those things. And I recently, there's been so many things going on the planet that are difficult to navigate, I think, for a lot of people. And social media, for all the wonders of social media, there's also some really dark things. Whereas when someone gets on a tangent and starts to rant about things, everyone can kind of follow along, or at least we've taken it in, and it can be hard to kind of process that. And so we had this beautiful, beautiful retreat that we just did. And I was talking to Anita about this thing that I used to do. So I'm going to skip back just a little bit. Of all the things that I've done, one of the things that I spent 15, 20 years in ministry, right? So, you know, I'd taken a lot of counseling courses and I had a lot of counseling too, but that's another story. But I did all of that. I went to Bible college. I was a minister. I did that. And because I'd been very intuitive, you know, before I was in church, I did psychic readings and tarot cards, and I did all of those things. And then when I was in church, it was the same thing, really. It was just, we just called it prophetic ministry. And so I was very involved in that. And I trained and under some incredibly wonderful, brilliant, revelatory, intuitive, psychic, prophetic, wonderful people for many years. And I was asked to create my own course in that, and I did that. And for some years I taught on that. And so basically what happened is now, you know, I've been out of church for about 10, 15 years. Love church, and it's really great. It's just, this is where I'm at, and this is my path, right? And I never forgot those things. And so I was watching what was happening in the world, and I thought, the answer for me to fear is not to try to control that. And the answer to anger for me is not to try to control that. For me, I don't know another way out of those things but to love. And so one of the things I used to do when I used to do spirit readings or whatever we want to call them these days, is I used to do this thing called When I Look at You, I See. And it's very much about in looking at people and seeing what is beautiful and calling that to life in them. And even when we see someone who is riddled with fear, what I can know about, if I see someone who's struggling with anxiety, here's what I know about that person from a very intimate spot in my life. What I know about that person is that they are courageous and they're brave, because if I am looking upon their face and they're a person with that much anxiety, then I know for sure that they had an enormous amount of courage to get before me or anybody else for all that matter. So When I Look at You, I See is a course that I have developed to teach people about intuition and empathy, not empathy, but being an empath. And for the record, I think everyone's an empath and I think everyone is intuitive. So I don't think it's a couple of us have this enormous gifting and then the rest of you are just wandering around wondering what that might be like. And that's a thing, that gifting has helped me to navigate a lot of very difficult times in my life, because I learned to, from a very young age, to listen to that small, still voice. And some people that is the ancestors, some people that is their God, some people that is, I don't worry about naming that. It's just, there's this very small, still voice that would speak to us. So the course that I created is When I Look at You, I See, is about learning to understand that, learning to develop that, and learning how to walk that out with kindness and with wisdom and with love. And I think it's time in the world right now that we look at each other and see beauty, because I can look at anyone and I can see brokenness and woundedness, or I can see immense beauty and possibility. And where I want to be in my life is to look for the beauty and the possibility in others. And I feel like I've spent a lifetime, I've earned my stripes, and I've got that to share with people. So that's something that I wanted to share. And of course, I want you to come and learn with me and grow with me and evolve with me and find out ways to really trust yourself and to see beauty in yourself. Of course, I want that. And I want us to do it more and more together, because I've never taught a course that I didn't learn at least as much as the people that were in my class. It's just, that's how life is. That's how it goes. And so that's where I'm at. And that's been part of my change. Part of my change has been the ability to look back and start to remember all these things that I've had that were always with me. We all stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, and we all have all of these things that we've done in our life. And sometimes we lose track of that. Sometimes I can forget, oh yeah, I did this thing before. I talked about that when I was talking about the sound and seeing the colors. Oh yeah, I did that before. And I talked about that when they told me, oh, but you were a music therapist. Oh, well, I guess kind of. I mean, we're all these magical, wonderful beings who've done all of these things. And when we sit down and take a look at that, we're all changing all the time. And yeah, I think that's it. I think if I leave us with anything today, it's when change comes and we didn't want it to, it's okay. Be brave, take a breath, center, feel where it is in our body. Like really, that's another, oh yeah, right. The somatic integrated trauma therapy course. Okay, so I took that too. So, but anyway, so just feel where that is in your body, feel where that is, and then breathe into that place. Then stabilize, get your feet under you, and just say, yeah, I can do this. I can do this change. I can do it. I might not want to do it, but I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I am a firm believer that there's always hope. And so just walk forward and don't give up hope. That's that. Peace. Are there any questions from the studio audience?
It was so beautiful. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
you're such a delight, and it's so nice that it's come full circle, and now you're Tarzan, able to offer that vine to save people from their quicksand in life. That's just so lovely.
Mm.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like you have this resilience in you from your stories. I mean, today we were just tested again with the hacked Zoom, and you just got this inner peace that just, you just exude this beautiful peace and glow.
Well, thank you. That's kind. I was blessed to be with all of you. So we rode it together.
So that
Put the seatbelt on, and there goes that roller coaster ride.
That was a tidal wave if we rode the waves, I tell you. Did you bring that from Mexico, Alina? That wave. Oh my goodness. Karima, anybody, Anita, anybody have any questions before we end this beautiful session?
I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to affirm what Ali discourse about. When I look at you, I see when we were at a retreat 2 weekends ago, there was eight of us, and Ali did it, looked at each of us and said amazing things. And then she kind of left it open that we could pick one person and do it, but instead everybody picked everybody, and everybody did it for all 8. And there wasn't a single person in that group who couldn't do it. And some of the people that you would least expect it from,
Right.
just gave the most, like, I mean, there was lots of tears. And I don't even mean when it was about ourselves, like for each other, because it was, when truth is spoken, you feel that in your heart, right? And so there was tears just because of the beauty of it. And so I highly recommend it.
It was awesome. I loved sharing that with you.
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect. And I, first of all, on behalf of Power and Aging, we're super grateful just to be in your presence and your energy, and for your stamina and resilience tonight with all of the Zoom problems. So we're grateful. But I wanted to let everybody know who is going to be watching this replay that Ali has, first of all, so generously gifted our whole community with her book in a PDF form. So that book is it's called The Art of Healing Trauma. And I think that's going to sort of encompass who you are. I haven't read it yet. I'm looking forward to it, and the stories you've said tonight as well. And she's also generously gifting our community with a discount for this lovely course. When's the course starting? January, did you say?
In January. The date is to be announced, because this is the first time I'm setting eyes on on the lovely Anita, and Anita's gonna we'll be sorting that out, but it will be in January. Yeah, the last half of January is when it'll start.
Okay. And what I'll do is I will put a reminder in one of our newsletters for people with more information as that progresses, and as you have that for us, we can share it with our community. And as Mel and I like to say, we like to cross-pollinate our communities and
Yes.
welcome each other. Only
Yeah.
we not the Zoom hackers, but we're gonna welcome everybody else back. They don't get to come. Oh my God. But it was memorable, right? For many
It
reasons.
was. It definitely was. It definitely.
Goodness.
It's a whole new world, baby.
That's right.
Improv at its finest, really, really. And appreciate everyone who came back, and again, from our hearts to yours, thank you so much, Ali, for
Oh,
making this evening very special for us, and everything that you've shared. It's truly touching and inspirational, your story. So
well, thank you, and thank you, Mel, and thank you
Definitely,
for
yeah.
having me here. It was really a pleasure, and I loved having you both on my podcast. You're incredibly engaging, your stories and everything. So it was great. And Anita.
That was great fun too. So we
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will continue to share the link to your podcast because I've listened to some. I listened to them before we were even guests, and oh my gosh, I was laughing. I was relating so much to that story, the Blue Jay story. So that's a fantastic podcast, and I highly recommend it. And I
And
have
a great
included
storyteller. She's a
links
great
as well.
storyteller.
Yeah, great storyteller. So I've included I think most of your links to be able to follow you and continue being a part of your community. So I hope everybody is able to do that in tomorrow's email.
And remember, when people open doors, like the doors she had opened for her that she just bravely walked through, give it a try. Don't shut that door. Don't slam it shut before you step out and, you know, take a chance on that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming.
Yes,
Thanks, Karima, for coming back in.
Yes.
I was insistent. I wanted to finish this because it was such an incredible start, and I'm like, I want to hear what's.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can't wait
thank
for the
you.
recording. I need to know now.
you know the expression "leave them wanting more," right? So there you go. You can continue to follow Allie now and get more of her
I
story.
would love that. I would love that.
Yeah, just a question, and you could probably take this out of the recording. You bounced from where you were to here, so many steps and challenges, and just the way that you went all about it. Like, what happened to those two girls? Do you know? Like,
Who
were
hit
they-
me?
Yeah.
They were, they were fine. They didn't get hurt,
Okay. Yeah.
as far as I know. I'm guessing that there was probably some charges, but there was nothing malicious done,
Yeah.
right? So there was probably, if I ever knew, let me put it, because of my memory is, well, it's getting better, but I haven't had anything to do with the story, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, of my accident for about 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah.
Once court and all that stuff is done. So I don't really know what happened. I hope that her life is good and that she doesn't turn around anymore when she's
Well, I really appreciate the fact that when you said, whatever happened, it wasn't like you didn't have any wish anything on them or anything like that. You were very
Yeah.
kind, and the fact that you were forgiving, and it just helps because then you're able to move forward, and
Yeah.
so much comes out of it. And
Yeah.
if you lived in the past and, thought about all this, then you wouldn't be able to go and be where you are right now. So it's
Yes.
incredible.
I have stories for days of my life in unforgiveness.
Okay.
I have stories for days. Um, from the things that happened to me as a child, and then from my daughter and all of that, right? So I talk about that a bit in my book. So my book is called The Art of Healing Trauma: Finding Joy Through Creativity, Spirituality, and Forgiveness. So one thing that I know deep in the very core of my being is that unforgiveness is a poison. And so the thing that the girl did, it was just, I thought it was funny. I actually said, I knew French fries would get me one day. I made a joke of it, like that it was French fries. I was like, of course it was French fries. Of course it was French fries. Because they were like one of my weaknesses, right? I'm just like, oh, French fries. And so I'm like, so yeah, I didn't have to try with her. Like it was a nothing to me. It was like, she didn't do anything to me. I mean, she was just careless. And so, but I'm really, my book actually started out being called Forgive Mess, The Messy Journey of Forgiveness. And then it turned, and I might still write that book. That story is weaved in my book, but that specific story, because I know unforgiveness very intimately, and it's a bitter poison that I can't drink. It's one of those things, I can't allow it anywhere in my life because it will eat me whole. So if I don't know.
Is that something that you would come back and speak on? Because I really love the thought of unforgiveness as a poison and forgiveness and all of that. Is that something that you want to keep in the past, or is something that you
Oh,
talk?
I'll talk about forgiveness anytime, because I I can't, well, I don't really work as a counselor anymore, but because this was something, I mean, I won't go into the whole thing, but I literally have stories for days about unforgiveness and about how deeply, deeply bitter and messed up I was. It was like whoa, that girl is messed up, right? I was an angry, angry person. And yeah, I'm always happy to talk about forgiveness, because it's messy business. It's messy business, and it's not just it's it's like cleaning a stall, right? Put your boots on, get your gloves on. There's going to be shit everywhere, but we're going to clean this stall, and it's going to be good once it's done.
I would love that. I know we did have a speaker years ago on forgiveness. It was more of a, we did sort of a forgiveness ritual ceremony together, but we never really delved into this, raw, pain that and what you went through. So I think that could be a really, good journey for people to hear that, if maybe we can invite you back in the spring.
Oh, I'm always happy. Yeah, I mean, you'll be sick of me by the time we're I'm always happy to, and like I said,
Never.
forgiveness, I'm always happy to talk about forgiveness, because it's a hard one for people to grasp, and when you get close to someone who is bound up in resentment and pain and wounding, it's kind of like someone has a big pussy sore and you're just trying to clean it for them, and they resist it, and it hurts them, and they're just fighting you the whole way, and they're mad at you. Yeah, I'm really good at yeah, okay, I'll just stop, because I'm just gonna go on and on and on. It's hard to believe that I
That
would.
was another beautiful visual though, that's now in my head.
Thank you. Now I'm
Fussy.
gonna go make cookies.
Fussy. Yeah, yeah,
And she's already forgiven us for what's happened tonight. Isn't that beautiful?
that's right.
Well, there was nothing to forgive you. I mean, it's just the world, man.
Never been personally
well
hacked
done,
like
man.
that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that might, something to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm but it's okay. Don't think you need to have me back to talk about it because of this.
Oh, you're fascinating, and you have
No,
so much
totally.
to offer. We would love that. Absolutely love that.
Oh, that's very
Well,
kind.
ladies, thank you. Thank you so
Oh,
much
thank
for
you.
your time, your energy, your forgiveness, your experiences, your openness, and your beautiful energy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ellie. Thanks, Chris and Mel.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
Love you all.
Love
Love you,
you.
ladies.